A woman with a collar, some kind of vestments, processing with priests in all the way to the altar for a mass at the Holy House in Loreto, apparently thinking that she's concelebrating this somehow, some way. The headline coming out of the New Daily Compass says, "A priestess in the Holy House of Loreto." Why is there a woman up there? Anybody know? Anyone? What is she doing? Why is she putting her hands out like that? Why is she trying to speak these words? That during the consecration, the minister extended her hands as a sign of concelebration. So the woman, evidently belonging to a Christian community that does not have apostolic succession and does not recognize the sacramental dignity of the priestly ordination, attempted to disrupt the concelebration in the Holy House in front of the bishop and priests.
By the way, my name is Joe McClane. I host a radio program called A Catholic Take, where we look at the world through a Catholic lens. I'd love for you to hang out with us. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comments below.
We're talking about those that are pushing the wrong agenda at all cost. Is it the last dying efforts of the post-Vatican II modernist liberalist agenda trying to force bad things down the throats of the Catholics around the world? In fact, we have a story right now that I want to get into coming out of Italy. A woman with a collar, some kind of vestments, processing with priests and I suppose others in all the way to the altar for a mass at the Holy House in Loreto, apparently thinking that she's concelebrating this somehow, some way. We're going to get into this story right now. I'm going to link to the story for you in the show notes. The headline coming out of the New Daily Compass says, "A priestess in the Holy House of Loreto, ecumenism of confusion," rather. So again, check the show notes at the top of the hour for this. But it says, after Brazil, the Basilica of Loreto, where the Holy House of Mary is enshrined, is cause for scandal. Among the concelebrants, a woman vested in a cassock and collar. Protestant? Who knows? In the name of forced communion, the same misunderstanding is repeated and trumpeted, regardless of whether it pleases God. The Basilica of the Holy House of Loreto, July the 28th, 2025, so not even a couple of weeks ago. The bishop of that region in Italy can celebrate a Holy Mass to mark the Jubilee of the young people for their region. During the entrance procession, behind the deacon solemnly carrying the gospel book and following three priests without liturgical vestments, there were representatives of Eastern churches, probably non-Catholic, alongside a Catholic priest, a woman wearing a cassock from which the ecclesiastical collar is visible. She is likely a Lutheran pastor whose name we do not know. Now, listen, I'm okay with reaching out to non-Catholics in an ecumenical dialogue. I think this is a good thing to do. We should be doing this. To what end, though? To bringing them into the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, to bringing them into the bark of salvation, the ark of salvation for mankind, the one church Christ founded. What do you call a father who fathers multiple families? Yeah, it's not a good word. I know what you're thinking. I know that word in your head right now, and it's not a good word, is it? No, father, a good father, the father of all, fathers only one family. And all are invited to come into the fullness of the faith in that one family. And that is the mission of Holy Mother Church. So that is the goal of our ecumenical dialogue. That is what we're trying to achieve here. Is this achieving that? That's the question in my mind today. It goes on, though. She took her place in the presbytery, again, alongside a priest, where she remained throughout the Eucharistic celebration, presided over by the Archbishop. In this region, a worshiper present testified that during the consecration, the minister extended her hands as a sign of concelebration. So you've probably been to Novus Ordo Mass where there's been a concelebration. There was a lot of priests up there, and they all extend their hands. And you might see all of them with their lips moving because they're all saying the words of consecration. As the main presider says it, they are participating in that as well. You might have seen that before. So apparently this is the gesture that she is doing during this Mass. She too is extending her hands, apparently. Unfortunately, the video of the of the celebration does not allow us to confirm this. However, when the bishop resumed the Eucharistic prayer immediately after the acclamation of the faithful, she can be seen extending her hand again, which makes it highly probable that she made the same gesture during the words of consecration. So I just want you to imagine yourself there for a second, and you're sitting in the audience, you're sitting in their pew, you're trying to be there for Holy Mass. It's a great jubilee of youth. People from all over the world have gathered there, praise be to God. What a beautiful Mass it was for 1 million people to celebrate with Pope Leo. We talked about that when that happened. But here you're watching this and you're like, why is there a woman up there? Anybody know? Anyone? What is she doing? Why is she putting her hands out like that? Why is she trying to speak these words? I mean, that's bizarre. Even if she was a male, as a non-Catholic, she could not concelebrate the Mass. It's interesting because if you were to read Justin the Martyr, I want you to Google this. This is your homework for the weekend. Google Justin the Martyr, St. Justin Martyr, First Apology. Now, fair warning, it's a big document. Skip towards the last third of this document and read it, and you will actually find a description of the liturgy from the 1st and 2nd century. It's a beautiful thing. It's an amazingly detailed description of the Mass. And some scholars believe that that description is of the Mass being said over the relics of St. Peter's bones, hidden under what is today St. Peter's Basilica, because that was a graveyard. And they hid his bones in the center of that graveyard, cryptically. It's a beautiful thing. If you ever go to Rome, do the Scavi tour, they'll tell you all about it. But go read Justin the Martyr and the description. And you will also, if you go through the document, you'll realize they didn't just let anybody who wanted to come to the Mass in. Oh no, they don't let just anybody in. How do you get in? You got to be baptized. You've got to be on the team. You've got to be Catholic to come to the Mass. They didn't allow you access to the mysteries unless you were on the team. There was none of this ecumenical nonsense going on in Justin the Martyr's work, written around the year 125 AD, which, by the way, he wrote and sent to the Roman Curia and a copy to the son of the emperor. Why? Because they were persecuting Christians. They were persecuting Catholics, and he wanted to put an end to it. So that's what he did. He tried to put an end to it with his writing. The article goes on. Therefore, it seems that all the elements are present to suggest that the woman, evidently belonging to a Christian community that does not have apostolic succession and does not recognize the sacramental dignity of the priestly ordination, attempted to disrupt the concelebration in the Holy House in front of the bishop and priests from the region. This is one of the delecta grevioria reserved for the judgment of the congregation of the doctrine of the faith. Okay. But they invited her, or someone invited her. Maybe the bishop wasn't involved. I don't know. Maybe it was just somebody who was in charge of all the little details. And they're like, yeah, why don't you sneak in there? This will be great. Go ahead. I can't tell you whether the bishop had anything to do with this or not. I hope and pray he didn't. Somebody invited her there. Somebody allowed her to process there. Somebody allowed her. And did that somebody want her there for a very specific reason to sort of push this agenda, to normalize this idea that we can have female priests? We don't know. We're purely speculating. It goes on. In February of this year, we reported a very similar incident during the Pontifical Mass for the installation of Monsignor Jose Magri in the Diocese of Chupeco in Brazil. On that occasion, an Anglican presbyter entered in procession with the Catholic priests, dressed in a priest alb and stole, and the woman took her place in the presbytery, even receiving communion at the altar. Again, your homework assignment is to go read Justin the Martyr from the 1st and 2nd century, 125 AD, when he wrote his First Apology. You do not receive communion unless you're on the team. No outsiders, no non-Catholics received communion at Mass in the early church. The early church witnesses to this. You want an even earlier document? How about the Didache? Go read the Didache, written in about 55 AD. The teaching of the apostles, the way of light, the way of darkness. Go read it. Google it right now and read it. I double dog dare you to do it. Because you'll find out that you have to go to confession to receive communion in the first century, masses on Sundays, and guess what? You got to be on the team to go to mass and to receive communion. They don't put up with this stuff in the early church, but apparently, that's how it works here. It also seems, it says, that bishops care little about this gravitas of this issue against the Eucharistic sacrament, as well as the confusion that certain ecumenical gestures can cause among God's people. Yet concelebration with ministers of non-Catholic communities remains prohibited, especially with Christian denominations that do not have the sacramental priesthood. So Eastern Rite Catholics, they have valid sacraments. We recognize 7 sacraments with Eastern churches, with the Greek Orthodox, for instance, just to use as an example. So that's a different ball game. Do we recognize the ordinations of Lutherans? Do we recognize the ordinations of Anglicans? I mean, think about it. It goes on. It could be argued that the bishops did not anticipate the minister extending her hands in a sign of concelebration. While this argument is valid, it raises the question of why she was permitted to enter into procession wearing a white alb alongside Catholic priests and stand in the presbytery with them. I can tell you why. It's because whoever decided to let her in did so with an intention to push an agenda, the wrong agenda, to try to push and normalize this idea that we can have female priests. Maybe it wasn't the bishop. Maybe it was somebody else. But somebody made that decision. She was there intentionally. And this is inexcusable. It goes on. In such situations, the presence of non-Catholic ministers at the celebration of the Eucharist must be managed so as to avoid any confusion and to prevent an undue push forward towards communicatio in sacris, which remains prohibited due to the absence of full effective communion. They're not fully on the team, but we want them to be on the team. That is our heart's desire. We want this lady who processed wrongfully into this Mass and tried to raise her hands as though she can celebrate at this Mass. We want her on the team. God wants her on the team. God desires her to come to a full knowledge of salvation. And that is why he sent his apostles into the world to proclaim that gospel, to encourage her, to even admonish her, and to bring her into the fullness of the faith. She should have sat in the pew and not been up at the altar. That's the way it should have gone down. It goes on. The Holy Mass is not the place to promote ecumenism and hospitality. These goals can be achieved elsewhere, as Benedict XVI explained in his post-synodal apostolic exhortation, Sacramentum Caritatis, on the 22nd of February, 2007. The respect we owe to the sacrament of the body and blood of Christ prevents us from making it a mere means to be used indiscriminately to achieve this same unity. You want true unity? Then embrace what God has revealed to mankind. There's but one plan for the salvation of souls. We can't make it up as we go. God has revealed it to us. It is up to us to participate with God, not the other way around. God has his plan. He's told his apostles. He sent them into the world. Pray, because the laborers are too few. Pray God sends more. But good ones, the right ones, the ones that will try to make people come into the church and not just pretend. We'll be right back.
Did you like that video? It's okay. You can admit it. It's perfectly fine. Hey, we cover the big stories of our day, from inside the church to outside the church to all points in between, and we do it from a Catholic perspective. It's called A Catholic Take. It's a radio program Monday through Friday. We live stream it right here on this channel, by the way, so make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We would be very grateful to you. And don't forget, you're going to want to watch this video right here because you don't want to miss anything.